Hey, sorry it's taken me so long to get back to you this morning. I have worked on this and I was flummoxed and flustered and thrown off, and I was just like, I can't find anything. And I think it's because the MAGA concept or ideology or whatever you want to call it is so closely tied with things that have happened or arguments that people have had that I was really struggling to get down to, like the that symbolic interactionism where two people are kind of working with each other. And I thought, well, maybe Facebook, maybe social media. And then I came up, then I searched for MAGA hat, and you can see all the keywords that I tried. And it was hard to separate. And so here's some of the ideas that I had. So if you've gotten frustrated with this, hopefully this might help. But I was trying to think, what are the symbols? What are the tokens or the signals that somebody might possess or have or utilize? And another one was like yard signs. Remember, we saw a lot of yard signs during the election and the inauguration. So let me show you how I searched. And this might not be the answer to what you're looking for, but it hopefully will contribute a lot to what you've already done. Um, Suddenly there's a jet going over. I'm in my garage, so a lot of noise comes through. So we've got symbolic interactionism. And what I did is I listed some of the things that I found about that, because that can be keywords as well. Because not everyone is going to be talking about symbolic interactionism. They might talk about dialogue or interpersonal, political persuasion, or things like that. And so those are things that you can think about. Another one is like that "Make America Great Again" concept. How do we get that down to something that's, instead of like this broad, wide encompassing topic, down to like two people talking to each other, influencing each other? That actually might be a good word. But there's a lot of noise out there. So here's how I went around it. So, first of all, and I'm going to show you three different resources, probably maybe three or four, that you can use to search. And I'm going to give you some strategies as well. So the first one, the library catalog. So I'm at www.lib.utah.edu. The library catalog is something of like a general store where you can search for anything. So you could do you could just do a big search like that. And when I put quote marks in there, what it's doing is it's saying, I want all these words stuck together in the search. So I'm searching for that phrase. That works in Google as well. So you can throw in some of the main ones. You could also do symbolic interactionism in quotes and find a lot of great things. So strategy number one is, when you are working on a paper or doing research tying symbolic interactionism with "Make America Great Again," it's unlikely that you're going to find things that say everything that you want to say in one beautiful, perfect article. Instead, the strategy should be where you have all of your narrative and the things that you're talking about, and every now and then somebody might have an article about nationalism. So you would talk about that. Or you would talk about religion and the influence on national identity. Or a symbol like the MAGA hat, or yard signs, or things like that. So you're bringing all these elements together. Think of it like a recipe where you're doing a little bit of nationalism here, a little bit of this, a little bit of symbolic interactionism, and all of those pieces that you find, you're stirring together and you're combining. So you don't have to find an article that says all of these things. You can work with just little pieces. So, for example, "Make America Great Again." There's like 5,000 articles, 4,600 articles. If you go in here, and the catalog takes a long time because it's pulling from all these different databases. So there's DVDs, articles, books, book chapters, dissertations, individual digitized objects like photographs, diary pages. This is kind of like a general store. But it's a great place to look, and you can see, well, what's going on? And you can see, what are people talking about? And right here, there's like racism, technology. There's all sorts of different things going on. So you could cruise through the titles. You can go specifically to peer-reviewed journals. Let's see how much that narrows it down. So we had 4,600. Oh, now we have 1,100. And I'm going to move my head. So instead of looking at the articles, you can also look at the sorting options, or how they organize themselves in information. So one organization is databases. And this is more for me because I'm like, oh, where are people talking about this? So social science premium collection, that's a database that I looked in. Social sciences are like sociology, social work, business, um, some communication, a lot of different things like that. So that might be a great place to go. JSTOR. But apart from location, what are some ideas for looking? Subject is really great. And you can get ideas of keywords in here. So when I search for Make America Great Again, these are the subjects in those peer-reviewed articles that show up the most. So we know it's social sciences a lot. We know it's political science. We know it's tied with some names. But here's some good keywords. So like if you did symbolic interactionism and populism, that might be a search that you could do. Or you could narrow it down by just clicking on this. Or racism, nationalism. Let me show you populism. So we've already searched for Make America Great Again. We've already narrowed it down to peer-reviewed articles. And now we're narrowing it down further to populism. What you could do in your symbolic interactionism article, or paper, sorry, you should publish it into an article. I think this would be great. What you can start to do is say, if let's see, I've got an uncle that's really big into this. Actually, I have two uncles on both sides of my family. So I've got an uncle that's really big into this. I could say my uncle really resonated with Make America Great Again. Why did it do so? When you're talking about the symbolic interactionism, you could just say how something resonated with somebody. And you didn't use the keyword symbolic interactionism, and you didn't use the keyword Make America Great Again, but you could talk about populism and why that appealed to a particular relative. So when you're talking about your whole narrative and you're analyzing the discourse or the dialogue, you could say why it appealed to people, and you could talk about social media. So that's one way of working on it. Let me show you another way of going into it. Let's go into databases. Let's see if there's any good ones. Oh, provincialism versus cosmopolitanism. So it's urban versus rural. You could talk about that and how people, and nostalgia. So all these different ideas that you can go into. And a lot of them you might have to just like pick that one little moment and then build your own ideas. So one thing that I would recommend in the library catalog is, if you look for symbolic interactionism, this would be a great place to get the bare base of like, what is that? And you could describe that with articles or book chapters or things like that. But there's like 12,000 articles. So in your paper, you're going to have to define. So you could use articles to define that, to fill out the need for a minimum number of scholarly articles. And you could do that same thing. So there's 12,000. I want my sorting options to show up here. Oh, got to move my head again. Here we go, peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals. Any of these 10,000 articles is going to work pretty good. But you could also narrow it down to go into subjects again. You could say, well, I'm really interested in the social interaction. I mean, that's how this works. But you could do populations like adults and things like that. Let's go into a database, and we'll do that search again. So this is a great place to start, and you could throw in things like that. Let's go into our first database. That one's going to be that Communication and Mass Media Complete that you may have already been encouraged to use. So under databases, if you go to You can go by name, but you can also go in by discipline. And under communication, the first one is going to be that communication mass media complete right there. Let's type in a symbol. Let's see what we can find with MAGA hat. The Make America Great Again, that red hat that is symbolic of so many different things that when you wear it, people know what's going on. And so we could just look for MAGA hat. I've done this search before. I looked for Make America Great Again, and it was just all over the place. But if you look for MAGA hat, that one's pretty good. Let's try a different database. Let's try that social sciences premium database that showed up. I'm surprised it doesn't show up in Communication Mass Media Complete. Be that as it may, so I'm going to go to Social Sciences Premier or Premium, and I don't know where it is, and the S is really full. Social Science Premium Collection. We'll go back to that communication one. The communication one would be a good one to do that symbolic interactionism in quotes. I'm going to find MAGA hat. Oops, I should have clicked on scholarly journals. I'll show you how to get around that. MAGA hat. It's like this, it's this icon, it's this symbol, it's this signal. So 4,000 results. It's amazing. But let's go to peer reviewed. That might narrow it down somewhat. 8. Okay. Supreme Court schools. Here we go. MAGA hat wearers are fair game for insults. MAGA hat's going to show up in here. So there's Spike Lee, so there's pop culture and film. Trumpism on college campuses. Let's go and see what that one's about. Journal of Qualitative Sociology. So they're doing interviews and things like that. Oh, this might be a good one to use. How do I know that? When scholarly articles are produced, they come up with a title that's mostly what the article's about, but the abstract is going to be all the main points of the article. And so you can make a judgment really, really quickly. So they say, in this paper, we report data. So they're talking about their methodology. And they talk about their population that they're studying. So the methodology is like the science behind their surveys or whatever. Population are the identity of people. And then, hopefully, there's identity. So they come up with archetypes. There's people who are rejectors or true believers. Oh, look at this. We argue that Trumpism is a disunifying symbol. So symbolic interactionism, if somebody wears a Trump hat, you could say, people are troubled, in your own words, you could say, people are troubled by that. And according to Kidder Binder in the Journal of Qualitative Sociology in 2020, they said Trumpism is a disunifying symbol. And boom, you've got one article in there already. And we didn't even look in the article. To be fair, we should go into the full article. Let's see what the full article says. Uh-oh. Oh, it's opening in Acrobat. Oh, that almost never happens, by the way. Usually it shows you different journals. So here's the article. Here's that abstract we saw. But what you could do also is you can see the pages here on the side. The first page and the second page, they're going to come to the point really, really fast. And then they're going to go into depth about that methodology, about the population, and all these other things that you don't necessarily need to know. So what you can do in any of these scholarly articles, if it looks close enough, email it to yourself or save the PDF and then move on and try and grab another article. But they should go, here they talk about white privilege. They talk about fear of immigration. They talk about radicalization, all these different things that you could talk about based on this particular population and how they dialogue with each other. So there's the archetypes. There's the people who, in conservative groups on college campuses, there's people who reject Trump, people who love him. And then you could talk about that interaction without even covering anything that you were interested in. You could already establish that a personal interaction in a group that typically sticks together is divisive, and it's dividing. And then you could use the words of these article. If that made sense. If it didn't make sense, let's do another one. Trumpism on college campuses. Let's try a different one than MAGA hat. What's another thing that's going on that has nothing to do with our current president or the previous president or any of that MAGA stuff, but is still related? So if you go over here, something that I have here and something that you might have noticed in the past 4 years is there have been lots of signaling, people with flags on their trucks, flags from houses, yard signs, all sorts of different things going on. So how can we search for that? I'm looking at my notes here. I took some notes as I was searching, and I found some gold in something else. So still in that social sciences premium, they all have these qualifiers. Let's look just in scholarly journals. So instead of that symbol MAGA hat, I'm interested in those signs. But if you looked for a Trump sign, it was a bit of a dud because he signed a lot of things symbolically. So how do we get around that? Well, every presidential election or in political movements, people have put out signs in their yards. So let me show you how I search for that without putting any of these simple things in. Political. If you put a single keyword like political, you're going to get every article in this database that has the word political in either the title or the abstract or the keywords. So that's a lot, isn't it? It narrows it down to about 3 million. To narrow that down further, we add another keyword, and I'm going to do and. And is a Boolean operator that says, okay, you've searched for political. Now, in that search result of 3,755,000, I would like you to now search for yard or lawn. I'm going somewhere with this one, and you might be able to tell. So I don't know if it's going to be a yard sign or a lawn sign. So in parentheses, is called nesting. I put an or statement. So the or says, okay, find everything with political, and then look for either yard or lawn. Let's see how far that narrows it down. So we've got 3 million. Now yard or lawn all of a sudden is like this weird context. And again, it's just title and abstract. Whoa, it narrowed it down to 24,000. But it's just like yard management practices. No. I want signs. Here's one that has sign. So let's add another and. And I want to do sign. So if I wanted to do sign or signs, I could do that in parentheses. But there's another thing you can do if it's the same word, but just different iterations of the word. You can do a little star, and that'll get sign, signs, signage, sign stealing. Okay, so we had 24,000. One more keyword is going to narrow it down further. And this is all politics, all political signs. I'm hoping it's not zero. Oh, still 15,000. That's a lot. So what you could do, I love the title of this first one, Motivated Reasoning and Yard Sign Stealing Partisans. Mine is a likable rogue. Yours is a degenerate criminal. Isn't that cool? That's from 2016, so it is relevant. Lawn care, so that one's irrelevant. Yard signs and regulation. So a yard sign is a symbol. It's a representative thing. So I think this would be really good. Displaying of yard signs is a form of political participation. What you would do. And so now there's 15,000 of these. I'm going to show you how to narrow it down further. I mean, you could add and Trump or MAGA. But before we do that, let me show you how to use a generic article. Displaying of yard signs is a form of political participation. This was published in 2014, so before all the drama. or just before all the drama. I'm going to click on full text. And again, a scholarly article is going to come to the point really fast. And of course, it's going to be a microscopic font. Let's zoom in. Da-da-da. So instead of looking at the abstract this time, I'm going to go the word confrontational. Let's go back. What are they saying that's confrontational? The front lawns of America bear witness to the fact that citizens are not afraid to participate in a manner that is public, communicative, and confrontational. Yard signs and, here we go. Yard signs and other acts of symbolic participation, yada, 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 remind us not only that campaign season is underway, but that a significant number of people wish to share their views in the public. Okay, symbolic interactionism, two people and their development of an individual order as a social process. In political, if you have a yard sign, we just found an article that defines that social process as people are trying to influence other people's ideas and share theirs. You could tie that into symbolic interactionism with your own rhetoric right there. And you have a quote, and you have a scholarly article from the Journal of Political Behavior. So this is how you'd find that. How do we narrow it down further? Is we can add more keywords. So I'm just going to add those loaded words, Trump or Make America Great Again. I want to do and. What are the things related? There's MAGA or Trump or Make America Great Again. So can you see what I'm doing here? I'm doing another or statement. So it's doing political as a chunk, yard or lawn as a chunk, and then the MAGA, Make America Great Again. Let's see how far we go this time. So we're going from 15,000. Every time you add a keyword or group of keywords, it narrows it down further. 819. That's rather tidy. Oh, there's signage. So I caught sign. So there's talking about the yard sign. So this one might be better than the MAGA hat. So you can look at the MAGA hat and the yard sign, or actually you could look at the yard sign by itself, or you could look at the yard sign tied into this particular political movement. Just for fun, I want to see MAGA hat. Is it going to show up in this database? I'm hoping it will. Yeah! Oh, it's the same ones that we saw in the catalog. There's that one we saw in the catalog. All right, so maybe the MAGA hat isn't the greatest way to go. So using these keywords, cruise around and don't try and find something that covers everything that you want to say, but look at it piecemeal, little bits and pieces as you go, and then think of your narrative and your rhetoric in your paper as something that just needs little bits of support that talks about stories or ideology or symbolic interactionism or MAGA in particular, and then I think you'll be in good shape. And you obviously can do that all by itself, and you can do symbolic interactionism all by itself. But I think you're going to have to narrow it down a lot further because there's so much going on that's irrelevant. So these are my tips. Sorry for the long video. I think it's a great paper, but you're going to have to dig and be careful with how things go. So keep me in mind. I realize that the extension for the date is like midnight on Saturday night. So I'll keep my email open, and if you need help or suggestions, or if you want me to check something, I'm happy to do so. Have a good one.